She saved the billionaire CEO's mother and received an unexpected proposal. Before we begin, tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? And when the story ends, don't forget to rate it from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. The rain had stopped, but it left behind a carpet of puddles that glistened like the city's dirty mirrors. An elegant older woman, dignified even sitting in a wheelchair, waited on the sidewalk. Her light coat stood out against the gray day. Her silver hair was pinned neatly, her posture straight, as if she had learned to survive with grace. Clara slowed her pace without meaning to. Something about the scene caught her attention. A large puddle, almost like a small urban lake, stretched across the curb. Cars swerved to avoid it, but then a black sedan appeared, moving far too fast. The driver distracted, phone pressed to his ear, wheel edging dangerously close to the water. Instinct spoke first. Logic came much later. Clara could have stepped back and saved herself from the splash of muddy water that was coming, but the woman in the wheelchair didn't have that choice. Before the car even touched the puddle, Clara ran. She ran with everything she had, and the very second the tire hit the water, she jumped in front of the woman, and that strange reflex of hers kicked in again. A little hop, a quick spin, hands up like a karate move. Human shield. Accidental superhero. The wave hit her full force, cold, dirty, violent, but not a drop touched the woman. Clara froze there, dripping, arms still raised, while the car kept going as if nothing had happened. For a few long seconds she stayed in that ridiculous pose, breath held tight. When the danger was gone, her body finally unlocked. The woman looked at her with a spark of curiosity, almost amusement. "Dear, are you an agent?" Clara lowered her arms slowly, water dripping from her coat, her hair, even her elbows. "No, just instinct. It'll pass in a second." The woman laughed softly, delighted, as if she just witnessed the most unexpected episode of her morning. Before Clara could escape, dignity dripping all over the sidewalk, a black car stopped beside them. The driver jumped out, worried. "Mrs. Cole, I saw everything." The woman lifted a calm hand. "I'm perfectly fine, James. She's the one who isn't." Then she turned to Clara with gentle authority. "Come upstairs, dear." Clara blinked. "Upstairs? Cole Industries, my company." She pointed to the towering glass building behind her. "You're going to take a shower, change clothes, and have a talk with me." Clara looked at her watch. Her interview was in 20 minutes. Then at herself, soaked. Then at the woman, who clearly ran the entire building. She didn't really have a choice. The elevator ride was silent. Clara tried not to notice the puddle she was leaving on the mirrored floor. When the doors opened, she forgot to breathe. The office was all quiet luxury. Panoramic windows, a view that made Manhattan look like a model city. Amelia pointed to a side door. "Executive restroom. Fresh clothes in the closet. Pick what fits." 20 minutes later, Clara came out looking almost unrecognizable. Cream blouse, straight black pants, dry hair. Respectable. Amelia studied her with approving eyes. "Much better." Clara smiled awkwardly. "Thank you for the clothes and for rescuing me from total humiliation." Amelia gave a mysterious little smile. "Sit down." Clara obeyed, clutching her black folder on her lap like an emotional shield. Amelia crossed her fingers elegantly. "Your full name?" "Clara Winslow. Age? 25. Are you single, Clara?" Clara blinked. Yes. Why?" Amelia didn't answer. She pressed the intercom. "James, send Ethan up, now." A chill ran down Clara's spine. "Ethan? My son." Before she could ask anything else, the door opened. And there he was, tall, perfect suit. A face carved in quiet authority. Eyes that looked like they could decide someone's fate in 3 seconds. Ethan Cole stopped when he saw Clara, frowning slightly. "Mother, what happened?" Amelia smiled. "Nothing serious. Just an interesting coincidence." Ethan looked at Clara, and instantly her reflex kicked in. Defense mode activated. She jumped slightly, arms raised, feet firm. Ethan froze in the middle of the room. "Is she attacking me?" Clara, still in position, took a deep breath. "No. Reflex. My body acts on its own. It'll pass." Amelia watched the scene, clearly pleased. "Ethan, this is Clara Winslow." "Clara, my son, Ethan Cole." Clara finally relaxed and tried to look somewhat normal. "Nice to meet you." Ethan nodded, cautious. "Likewise." A heavy silence filled the room. Then Amelia spoke again. "Clara, do you have any serious commitments right now? A fiancé? Boyfriend?" Clara blinked, completely lost. "No, why?" Amelia turned to her son. "Ethan, she's perfect." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Mother, no, Yeth." Amelia looked at Clara with absolute calm. Clara Winslow, you're going to marry my son. Clara froze. The reflex was instant. Jump, pose, hands up. Mary! Ethan ran a hand over his face, exhausted. Mother, this is insane. It's necessary. Amelia turned to Clara, who was still frozen in her defensive pose. You need stability. My son needs a wife his father can't control. It's a fair deal. Clara finally lowered her arms, her legs trembling. I left home for a job interview, not for this? Amelia smiled. The interview was at my hotel. You already passed. How? The hotel is yours too? You saved me with a karate move. You showed courage, loyalty, and quick reflexes in 3 seconds. That's worth more than any resume. Ethan crossed his arms tense. Mother, you can't just— I can, and I will. Amelia pressed the intercom. James, book the courthouse for tomorrow. Clara felt the ground disappear beneath her. Tomorrow? Ethan looked at her. She looked back at him. Neither of them seemed to have a choice. Amelia smiled, victorious. James, take Clara to the guest penthouse. She'll need proper clothes. Clara left the room still processing. Puddle. Karate. Marriage. What on earth just happened? She woke up thinking she'd dreamed everything, until she opened her eyes and saw the ceiling at least 10 feet above her, like she'd slept inside a minimalist luxury cathedral. She sat up slowly, sinking into sheets that probably cost more than her yearly rent, surrounded by silence so expensive that even breathing felt like trespassing on private property. The enormous curtains filtered the Manhattan light as if the entire city had been framed just for her. Then the memory hit like a punch to the stomach. Puddle. Accidental karate. Ice-cold CEO. Marriage proposal from his mother. Clara threw the comforter aside and ran to the door, turning the knob with a racing heart. It opened normally. Okay, at least I'm not locked in. So technically this isn't, well, whatever it is, I'm still here. She grabbed her phone. 15 messages from Rachel, each one more desperate than the last. Where are you? Where did you go last night? If you don't answer in 10 minutes, I'm calling everyone we know. Clara was typing, calm down, I'm fine. When the door opened without warning, Ethan walked in like it was his office, holding a black folder. Reflex activated. Clara jumped out of bed in a move that defied every law of morning physics, robe flying like a disoriented superhero cape, hair sticking in all directions like she'd been electrocuted, hands up in a defensive pose. Ethan stopped at the doorway, blinked twice, and tilted his head like a scientist observing a rare phenomenon. Good morning? Clara slowly lowered her arms, pulling the robe tight with what little dignity she had left, which wasn't much. You don't knock before walking into a room that isn't yours? Technically, the whole building is mine. Technically, but privacy ranks above property. Philosophically, interesting. Ethan lifted the folder. But my mother asked me to bring this. Clara looked at the folder like it was a court summons wrapped in Italian leather. What is it? Prenuptial agreement. Oh, of course, because every fairy tale marriage begins with legal clauses at 8 in the morning. It's not a fairy tale, it's a contract. Ethan set the folder on the bed. You read, understand, decide, simple as that. Clara picked it up carefully, as if it might explode. She opened it, eyes wide. Clause 1. Duration, 24 months from date of signature. 2 years, 24 months. 730 days pretending to be married to a stranger. Perfect, Clara. Yesterday you were emailing resumes. Today you're reading a marriage contract. Fantastic career progression. She kept reading, fingers trembling slightly. Clause 5. Public appearances must be coordinated at least 48 hours in advance. Okay? She could fake liking him at events. She'd faked liking a bad boss for 6 months. She could fake liking a temporary husband. Clause 12. Conjugal duties not mandatory. Separate residences allowed. Relationship based on mutual respect and discretion. She froze. Wait. Not mandatory? You mean we'll be married but we won't? I mean, Ethan already turning to leave. Exactly. So it's like marriage on paper? It's a legal marriage, just not a real one. And what's the practical difference? Something like $1 million in financial compensation at the end of the 2 years. Clara choked on her own breath. $1 million? She flailed the folder and accidentally knocked over the glass of water on the nightstand, which fell in slow-motion cinematic style, spilling cold water that ran straight into her fluffy slippers. Oh no. Ethan watched the mini-disaster unfold with the calm expression of someone who had already expected chaos. Do you always break things when you get nervous? Clara grabbed a towel, frantically wiping the floor. Only when I'm reading marriage contracts with people I met yesterday, so it's a very specific situation. Ethan picked up the folder, its edges still damp, gave it a light shake, and handed it back to her. The courthouse is at 3 this afternoon. Someone will pick you up. Wear something appropriate. Appropriate how? A suit? Emotional armor? A vest against questionable decisions? He stopped at the door, turned slightly, and gave a near smile. A white dress. My mother already sent one. Then he left. Clara was alone, holding the wet folder, one soaked shoe, and her sanity hanging by an invisible thread. She looked at her phone and typed slowly, "Rachel, do you believe in destiny?" 3 seconds later, "No. Why? What did you do?" Clara turned off the phone before her friend could call back. "Because I'm getting married in 7 hours and still don't know what kind of movie I'm in." At 3 o'clock, Clara stood in front of the Manhattan City Hall, wearing a simple white dress Amelia had sent. Elegant, discreet, and probably worth 3 months of rent. No veil, no flowers, no music. Just her, the dress, and the growing sense she was starring in a surreal episode of her own life. Ethan arrived in a flawless gray suit, hair perfectly styled, posture of a man who signs important documents before breakfast. Amelia was beside him in her wheelchair, smiling like a strategist who had just executed the perfect plan. "You look beautiful, dear." Clara forced a smile that came out more like a nervous grimace. "Thank you. I feel like an extra in a corporate film." "You're the leading lady, dear," Amelia said, giving her arm a gentle pat. "Never forget that." Ethan glanced at Clara. "Ready?" "Absolutely not." "Perfect, let's go." Inside, the office was exactly what Clara expected. Small, functional, smelling of old paper and life-changing decisions made in 15 minutes. A clerk with a neutral face, 2 witnesses Clara had never seen and probably never would again. Amelia positioned herself like a strategic observer of the entire scene. The officiant began speaking in a bureaucratic tone that made Clara wonder if he was actually present or running on autopilot. She couldn't focus on the words, just on her heart racing like she was in an emotional marathon she hadn't trained for. "Calm down, Clara. It's just signing a paper. You sign papers all the time. Internet contracts, gym memberships you never used, delivery receipts." Ethan signed first without hesitation. He handed her the pen as casually as passing a TV remote. Clara took it. Her hand visibly shook. "Are you really sure about this?" she whispered. Ethan looked her straight in the eyes with that infuriating confidence of someone who never doubts his decisions. "I'm not sure about anything, but I'm doing it anyway." She almost laughed at how absurd that was. Almost. She leaned in to sign the dotted line, and her body decided it was the perfect time to go into full alert mode. Reflexes activated at the most inappropriate moment in the history of civil weddings. Clara jumped back, hands up in defense, pen flying in a dramatic arc, papers sliding across the table like skaters on ice. The clerk stepped back in surprise. The witnesses exchanged wide-eyed looks. Amelia covered her mouth gracefully to hide her laughter. Ethan closed his eyes, took a deep breath through his nose, and looked at the ceiling as if searching for patience in higher dimensions. "Seriously, Clara? Now?" Still frozen in her defensive stance, Clara gasped, eyes wide. "My body has a mind of its own, okay?" "I didn't choose this." The clerk cleared his throat awkwardly. "Do you need a moment, ma'am?" Clara lowered her hand slowly, cheeks burning with embarrassment. "No, I just have very, very active reflexes, sorry." Ethan crouched with the patience of a corporate saint, picked up the pen and placed it carefully back in her hand. "Take a deep breath. I am breathing, slower." Clara closed her eyes. Breathed. Once, twice, 3 times. Counted to 5. Opened her eyes. Looked at the document, at her name written in neat cursive. Clara Winslow. She signed next to Ethan Cole's name, her hand still trembling slightly. The clerk stamped it with a dry thunk that echoed like the sound of irreversible decisions. "You are now legally husband and wife under the state of New York." Complete silence. No applause. No rice thrown. No tears of joy. Just the distant sound of traffic outside and the hum of an old air conditioner. Amelia stood up from her chair with impressive dignity, using her arms for support with visible effort, and hugged Clara with surprising strength. "Welcome to the family, my dear girl." Clara felt a tight knot in her throat. The hug was firm, warm, too real to be just corporate theater. When Amelia stepped back and sat down again, Clara blinked in surprise. "You can stand up?" Amelia smoothed her skirt with elegance. "I can, dear. But it's not easy. That's why I prefer the chair. It saves me unnecessary pain. Clara nodded slowly, trying to process everything at once. The marriage, the mother-in-law who stood up when she wanted to, the ring on her finger. Ethan held out his hand to her. Let's go. I'll take you home. Clara blinked. Home? Our home. Temporarily, he corrected with his usual calm tone. You'll need a place to stay. Clara looked at Amelia for guidance, but the woman only smiled with dangerously satisfied eyes. In the car, Clara couldn't stop staring at the ring on her finger. Simple, discreet, yet heavy as if made of solid responsibility. Ethan drove in complete silence. She finally gathered her courage. Your house is… what's it like? Normal. Clara doubted that. A lot. Normal like a regular apartment or normal like a Manhattan penthouse? Ethan almost smiled. You'll find out in 3 minutes. The car stopped in front of a building that made Clara small just by looking at it. A doorman in white gloves, a glass revolving door, a lobby that looked like a museum hall. Ethan turned off the engine and looked at her. Welcome to your new address, Mrs. Cole. Clara swallowed hard. Mrs. Cole. She had just gained a last name, a ring, and a husband. All in less than 48 hours. They got out of the car together. And the next phase of this madness was about to begin. Ethan Cole's penthouse wasn't an apartment. It was an architectural statement of power, with a panoramic view of Manhattan. Clara stopped at the doorway with her suitcase in hand, and swallowed again. Marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, furniture that looked like it had been designed by people who had never sat on anything ordinary. Perfect, Clara. You went from an apartment where the shower had 3 temperatures, cold, icy, and hypothermia, to a place that probably has voice-activated heating. Ethan walked in behind her, tossing his keys onto a glass tray that echoed through the expensive silence. Your room's down the hall on the left. Last door, private bathroom, empty closet. You can set it up however you like. Clara blinked. Empty closet? My mother will send clothes tomorrow. Wait, clothes? Like new clothes? For me? Ethan looked at her as if the question didn't even deserve an answer. You'll need to attend events with me. You have to look appropriate. Clara felt her blood warm slightly. I have clothes. I'm sure you do, he said, taking off his jacket and tossing it onto the couch with irritating ease. Just not for dinners with Japanese investors. She opened her mouth to respond, but he had already turned away and was heading toward his office. The kitchen's open. Use whatever you like. Don't come into my office without knocking, and try not to trigger that reflex every time I walk into a room. He disappeared down the hall. Clara stood in the middle of the huge living room, holding her worn-out suitcase, feeling like a well-dressed intruder. Welcome home, Clara. Your new temporary home made of glass, marble, and unspoken rules. 2 hours later, Clara was sitting on the floor of her bedroom, technically her bedroom, with the phone pressed to her ear. Rachel, I got married. Silence on the other end. Then, repeat that, slowly. I got married yesterday. At the registry office, to a billionaire CEO I met while saving his mother from a puddle. A longer silence. Clara Winslow, I'm coming over there right now and calm down. Let me explain. Explain? You disappear, get married, and call me like you just adopted a cat? Clara leaned her head against the wall, smiling despite herself. Technically, I was the one adopted. Clara. Okay. Listen. It's complicated. It's an arrangement. A 2-year contract, marriage on paper. I get stability, he gets freedom from his father. Kind of like a strategic alliance. You're telling me you got married by contract? Basically. And you're living with him? Clara looked around. A bedroom larger than her old living room. A king-size bed. A bathroom with a separate tub. An empty closet waiting for designer clothes. I already am. Rachel sighed on the other end. Okay, fine. You've officially lost your mind. But how is it? Is he weird? Nice smelling? I mean, what's he like? No. He's cold, controlled, like a very well-dressed robot, but he's not mean. A well-dressed robot. How romantic. It's not romantic, it's a deal. Sure. And have you already triggered that ridiculous reflex of yours in front of him? Clara closed her eyes, remembering the registry office. 3 times. Rachel burst out laughing. You attacked your own husband? I didn't attack. It was involuntary. Clara, you need therapy, or yoga, or both. What I need is to survive 2 years without causing an international disaster. Rachel sighed on the other end, her tone turning serious. Look, I don't know if this is madness or brilliance, but you've always been good at adapting. Just don't lose yourself in his world, okay? You're still you. Clara felt a tightness in her chest. Thanks, Rach, and keep me updated. I want to know everything, every embarrassing detail. You got it. She hung up and stared at the tall ceiling. Don't lose yourself in his world. Easy to say. Later, Clara left the room to explore. The kitchen looked like something out of a design magazine. Marble island, built-in appliances, a refrigerator that probably restocked itself. She opened it. Empty. Completely empty. Not even a bottle of water. Of course, because billionaire CEOs probably eat out every day or have a personal chef. She closed the fridge and turned to leave, and almost bumped straight into Ethan standing in the hallway, reflex activated. Clara jumped back, hands up, one knee bent, full fighting pose. Ethan froze with a cup of coffee in his hand, watching her without expression. 3 long seconds of awkward silence. Clara slowly dropped the pose, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, an automatic calming move. Sorry, you just appeared out of nowhere. I live here. I know. But you're really quiet, like a ninja. Ethan took a sip of coffee, still watching her curiously. Do you always do that? Do what? That. He gestured vaguely toward her. The stance, the jump, the look like you're about to take me down. Clara crossed her arms, defensive. It's involuntary. I noticed. He took a step closer. But why? I've always been like this. My body reacts before my brain catches up. Ethan tilted his head, taking another step. Interesting. Another step. Clara felt the tingling rise. No body. Not now. He's just walking. People walk. Totally normal. Ethan stopped half a meter away. You're tense. I am not. Your shoulders are up. You're breathing fast. And you just fixed your hair 3 times. Clara froze. Are you watching me breathe? I observe patterns. It's part of the job. He took another step, and the reflex almost kicked in. Clara felt her body start to move, but stopped herself with sheer willpower, biting her lip, hands tightening into fists at her sides. Ethan noticed. Of course he did. You just stopped yourself. Maybe. Why? Because you think it's ridiculous. I don't think it's ridiculous. He finished his coffee. I think it's curious. He turned and walked away, leaving Clara alone, trembling slightly, heart racing. She exhaled the breath she'd been holding. Okay, Clara, recap of the day. You moved into a luxury penthouse, almost attacked your contract husband in the kitchen, and now he thinks you're curious. Doing great. That night, Clara lay on the giant bed, staring at a ceiling that felt miles away. The ring on her finger felt heavy. Across the hall, Ethan was probably still working. She'd seen the light under his office door. She picked up her phone and texted Rachel. He called me curious. Immediate reply. Curious strange or curious interesting. Clara looked at the message. Thought about Ethan's expression, the way he'd moved closer, the genuine curiosity in his eyes. I don't know, but I hate not knowing. She turned off the phone, closed her eyes, and for the first time since it all began, Clara wondered if maybe, just maybe, this contract marriage was more complicated than it looked on paper. In the hallway, Ethan shut down his computer and stared at Clara's closed bedroom door. He had asked the right question. Why did she always react that way when he got close? And more importantly, why did he want to know the answer? Clara woke up feeling like she'd slept inside a luxury mattress commercial. That kind of morning when you're not sure if you're home or if you've been abducted by aliens who appreciate comfort. She sat up, staring at the tall ceiling. Okay, Clara. First official day of work. In a hotel. Owned by your temporary husband's family. Nothing major. Just your entire life changing in 72 hours. Totally normal. She got up and went to the closet, now full of clothes. Lots of clothes. The kind she'd never buy in her normal people life. She picked a white blouse, black pants, looked at the high heels like they were a trap. Okay, shoe. I know you're new here. I'm new too. So let's make a deal. You don't trip me, and I won't throw you out the window. Deal? The shoe didn't answer, but Clara had the feeling they understood each other. 20 minutes later, she was standing in front of the bathroom mirror, trying to decide if she looked professional. Or just like a kid pretending to be a responsible adult. You can do this. Just pretend you know what you're doing. Everyone pretends. Probably even the president pretends. Even Ethan must pretend sometimes. No one really knows what they're doing. She clipped her hair with a simple barrette, straightened her blouse, and took 3 deep breaths. Ready. Mentally prepared for about 30% of what's going to happen today. The other 70 will be pure improvisation. When she stepped out of the bedroom, the penthouse was empty. Only a note on the kitchen counter, written in neat, annoyingly elegant handwriting. Driver will pick you up at 8 a.m. Good luck. E. Clara picked up the note, turned it over, then again, as if invisible ink might reveal more instructions. Good luck. Seriously. What kind of husband says good luck in a note? Oh, right. Contract husband. Probably the kind of man who sends himself reminder emails for his own birthday. She crumpled the paper with more force than necessary, tossed it in the trash, and grabbed her black folder, her emotional shield since 2019. The car arrived exactly at 8. Luxurious. Silent. The driver wore white gloves and opened the door as if she were a visiting diplomat. During the ride, Clara looked out the window, watching Manhattan wake up. People running with coffee cups, faces set in that universal look of mentally preparing to survive another day in the wild jungle of capitalism. At least I'm not the only one pretending to be in control. The Cole Grand Hotel Manhattan was exactly the kind of place that made Clara feel small just by looking at it. All glass, marble, and a gold name gleaming across the facade like a corporate trophy. She stepped out, straightened her posture, and took a deep breath. You saved a woman in a wheelchair from a puddle using accidental karate. You married a CEO in less than 48 hours. You can walk into this hotel without fainting. Probably. She climbed the steps. Each one echoed like a drum roll before execution. The receptionist smiled, that perfectly practiced smile straight out of a corporate manual, page 4. How to smile without displaying actual emotion. Mrs. Cole? Clara almost looked behind her to check who she was talking to. Ah, yes, that's me, Clara. Winslow Cole, mentally hyphenated. 10th floor, meeting room. They're expecting you. Clara entered the elevator, pressed the button, and looked at her reflection in the mirrored wall. They're expecting you. Like you're someone important. You, Clara. The same person who ate instant noodles for dinner last night because cooking rice felt like too much work. The elevator rose in awkward silence, the kind where you start hearing your own breathing and wonder if it's too loud. 10th floor. Ding. The doors opened, and the first thing Clara saw was a woman who looked like she'd stepped straight out of the cover of a luxury business magazine, the kind you flip through at the dentist's office and think, these people can't be real. Tall, blonde, dress that probably cost more than the GDP of a small country. Heels clicking with the sound of authority. An expression that evaluated people the same way investors evaluate stocks. Cold, calculating, merciless. Victoria Maddox. She looked at Clara from head to toe, literally, her eyes scanning her like airport security searching for suspicious items. You must be the new assistant. Clara blinked. Assistant? No. Wait, technically I am new, and I will assist operationally, so she's not wrong. The tone is all wrong. Assistant? No, oh, sorry. Temporary wife of the CEO. Victoria smiled, but it was the kind of smile that comes with suspense music in movies. Basically the same thing, right? You assist him, so, assistant. Makes sense. Clara felt her blood boil like a kettle left on the stove too long. Actually, I'll be working in hotel operations management. How cute. Victoria crossed her arms, her perfectly polished nails gleaming like elegant claws. Do you have experience in hospitality? Yes, Victoria. I have a master's degree in dealing with people who think they're better than everyone else. 3 years of practical experience handling impossible clients. Can I put that on my resume? I have experience dealing with difficult people, so I think I'll fit in just fine. Victoria narrowed her eyes, like a cat studying a bird through a window. A man in a gray suit, with a smile that looked like it had been purchased from the discount section of Sincerity, walked up. Mark Duval, senior manager, nice to meet you. He held out his hand. Clara shook it and felt that extra pressure. The handshake that says, I'm going to intimidate you through social etiquette. Oh no, buddy. I grew up opening stuck olive jars. I've built survival muscles for this. He squeezed back, harder, with the strength of someone who had spent years fighting stubborn jar lids. Mark blinked, surprised, and was the first to let go, flexing his fingers discreetly. You're strong. Survival reflexes. Clara smiled sweetly, the kind of sweetness that you know will cause a toothache. Victoria rolled her eyes with the grace of someone who didn't care about hiding it. Well, let's start the meeting. We have a lot to review. Dramatic pause. I hope you can keep up. Keep up? As if I were a kid trying to run with adults. She doesn't know I watched 3 full seasons of finance documentaries on YouTube. I'm practically an expert. They entered the conference room. Clara sat at the end of the table, holding her black folder on her lap like a portable medieval shield. Victoria began the presentation. And it wasn't a normal presentation. She threw numbers, graphs, and technical terms as if testing how long Clara could last without asking for a dictionary. So the Q3 occupancy rate dropped by 4.7%, but the adjusted profit margin went up 8.3% due to staff reductions. We cut the cleaning team by 35%, and interestingly, guest satisfaction increased by 12 percentage points during the same period. Victoria smiled like someone who had just said, "Checkmate." Mark nodded, flipping through papers with rehearsed approval. Clara slowly raised her hand. Victoria stopped, like a teacher interrupted mid-lecture by a student who should have stayed quiet. "Yes? You said you cut 35% of the cleaning staff, but guest satisfaction went up 12 points. Clara tilted her head. "How does that work?" Silence. Victoria blinked like a computer rebooting after an unexpected command. "Excuse me? Fewer people cleaning. Happier guests." Clara gestured with her pen. "That doesn't make sense, unless you hired magical janitors, or cloned the remaining ones, or maybe outsourced to a parallel universe where rooms clean themselves while guests applaud." Mark cleared his throat, barely holding back a laugh ready to burst like a party balloon. Victoria turned red, stoplight red, tomato red, anger under pressure red. "It's a matter of operational efficiency. Optimized processes, smart resource management, or," Clara leaned forward, "of manipulated spreadsheets, because either the numbers are wrong or the survey was done only on the floors that were still properly cleaned, which would also be, well, dishonest." The room froze, really froze. If a cricket had been there, they would have heard it breathing. Victoria leaned forward, voice low and sharp like a whispered threat. "Are you calling me a liar?" And that's when Clara felt it. The tingling, rising up her legs like an internal alarm activating. "Not now, body. She's not a tiger. She's just a cranky executive in expensive heels with repressed anger. You don't need to activate fight mode for this." She took a deep breath, counted silently. 1, 2, 3. Tucked her hair behind her ear, her hand trembling slightly. "No, I'm saying the numbers don't add up, and someone should check them before presenting them to everyone as absolute truth." Victoria opened her mouth. And the door opened. Amelia Cole entered, pushed by James in her wheelchair, with the presence of someone walking into a UN meeting to resolve an international crisis. Everyone stood up. Instantly. Corporate Pavlovian reflex. "Sit down." Amelia smiled, but there was steel in her tone. Velvet-covered steel, but still steel. Victoria fixed her hair, trying to look composed, like an actress improvising after forgetting her lines. "Mrs. Cole, what a surprise." "Not a surprise, Victoria. I came to see how my daughter-in-law is adapting." Amelia looked straight at Clara with a subtle nod of approval, like an invisible stamp that read, "You passed the test." "And from what I see, very well." Victoria almost choked on her own breath. "Daughter-in-law?" "Yes. Clara is married to my son, which makes her part of the Cole family." Strategic pause, and consequently, part of this company's strategic leadership. Mark and Victoria exchanged tense looks like poker players realizing someone had the winning hand. Amelia turned to Clara. "Clara, dear, I'd like you to take over direct supervision of hospitality operations. Weekly report sent directly to me." Clara froze. "Wait, supervision? I don't even know where the restroom is in this place." Supervision? Yes, you just identified a flaw and no one else noticed." Amelia looked at Victoria with surgical precision. "That tells me you pay attention, and attention is worth more than experience when experience comes with dishonesty." Silence. Victoria clenched her fists under the table, trying to hold her anger with physical force. "Mrs. Cole, with all due respect, Clara doesn't have the training to. She has a sharp eye, courage, and loyalty." Amelia smiled coolly. "3 things that seem to be in short supply in this room." Victoria went pale. Mark swallowed hard. Amelia nodded to James. "Let's go. I have lunch with investors who actually know how to do honest math." She left the room like a general leaving the battlefield after a crushing victory. Clara sat frozen, trying to process. "Wait, did I just get promoted? A promotion I didn't even know existed? In a job I technically started today? How does that even work?" Victoria stood up slowly, very slowly, like a predator rising after taking a surprise hit. She picked up her folder and looked at Clara with a barely disguised hatred, then unwrapped like a gift. Congratulations on the promotion. Each word sharp as glass. It must be nice having shortcuts. Clara stood too, holding her anger like an overfilled party balloon. Shortcut, her voice rose. I saved his mother from a puddle using involuntary karate. You call that a shortcut? I call it luck. Victoria turned to leave, heels clicking like hammers. But luck runs out, Clara, and when it does, you'll realize you don't belong here. She walked out. Mark paused at the door, giving Clara a look of disdain, the kind given to an interesting but annoying insect. Careful who you challenge, Mrs. Hackole. Some of us have been here for years, and we know how things really work. He left too. Clara stood alone. She looked at the chair she had sat in, at the whiteboard full of numbers, at the Manhattan skyline beyond the glass wall. Then she slowly sat down again, like a puppet losing its strings. Okay, Clara, recap. You just made enemies on your first day. Powerful enemies. Enemies who probably know where you live, which technically is also where their boss lives, but still. She rubbed her face. Excellent networking strategy. Congratulations. You're a genius of human relations. She grabbed her phone and texted Rachel. I just got promoted and threatened on the same day. Is that good or bad? Instant reply. Because Rachel always had her phone in hand. Depends. Did the threat come before or after the promotion? After. Then it's envy. You're doing great, friend. Just keep existing near her. It'll be fun to watch. Clara laughed out loud. For real. The sound echoed through the empty conference room. Rachel, your sense of entertainment is very questionable. She stood, fixed her blouse, grabbed her black folder like a warrior reaching for her sword, and left the room. Her sneakers, because of course she had changed back into her worn ones, the new heels could wait, squeaked on the marble floor, practically announcing, here comes the new girl. In the elevator, alone, she looked at her reflection. Hair slightly messy, blouse wrinkled from nervous fidgeting, eyes wide, realizing adult life was basically improvisation in expensive clothing. You survived round one, Clara. She took a deep breath. Now comes the real fight, and you don't even know the rules. But that's okay, nobody really does, everyone's just making them up. The doors closed. Downstairs in the hotel lobby, Victoria was on the phone, her voice low, her tone dangerous. Yes, she's exactly the problem I thought she'd be. Pause. No, we won't wait for her to adjust. We'll make sure she never does. Another pause. Tomorrow, meeting with the team, set the stage. She hung up, smiled. That smile of someone who had just moved a strategic piece on the board. And upstairs, Clara was arranging her new desk. Her desk, technically. Looking at the nameplate on the door. Operations Management. Clara Winslow Cole. The plaque still felt unreal. Clara stared at it too long, afraid it might vanish if she blinked. Okay, plaque, you're really there. With my name. My name. The same name on a bank account with a negative balance and an overdue library fine. This is corporate surrealism. The plaque didn't answer, but Clara could swear it was silently judging her qualifications. 3 days later, Clara discovered that operations supervision meant being present at every major corporate event. And that Thursday, there was a big one. A gala dinner for international investors, grand ballroom, 300 guests, live orchestra, flower arrangements worth more than a small car. And Clara, wearing a black dress, Amelia had sent, elegant, simple, and unmistakably expensive, stood quietly in the corner, holding a glass of champagne she was too afraid to drink because it looked too costly. Okay, Clara, you just need to exist here. Look nice. Don't spill anything. Don't activate defense mode. Don't cause a diplomatic incident. Very low bar. You can do this. Across the room, Victoria was chatting with a group of executives, laughing that laugh that sounded like breaking crystal. Beautiful but sharp. Mark stood beside her. Always there, always smiling that smile of someone who keeps knives behind their back. Clara was about to look for a place to hide, maybe behind a decorative Greek column, when she heard it. A quiet sob, coming from the service hallway. Clara looked around. No one else noticed. Everyone was too busy being important and rich. She followed the sound. In the hallway, sitting on the floor in a waitress uniform, was a young woman, probably no more than 20, crying with her face in her hands. Hey. Clara crouched down, her dress protesting against the movement. Are you okay? The girl lifted her face. Red eyes. Smudged makeup. I'm going to be fired. Why? They're saying I stole Mrs. Hartman's necklace. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. But I didn't, I swear. I only served her champagne. I never even went near her table. Clara felt anger rising. Who's saying that? The manager, Mrs. Maddox. She said someone saw me near the table, but I wasn't. I was in the kitchen the whole time. There are cameras. Then the cameras prove you're innocent. She said the cameras were malfunctioning. The girl sobbed again. I need this job. I pay for college. My grandmother lives with me. If I get fired for stealing, no one will hire me again. Clara stood up slowly. Cameras malfunctioning. How convenient. What's your name? Sophie. Stay right here. Don't go anywhere. Understand? But nowhere. I'll be back. Clara walked back into the ballroom with firm steps, her heels making that sound of determination on the marble floor. She found Victoria talking to a man in a gray suit who probably mattered a lot, because everyone around him laughed at his jokes even when they weren't funny. Victoria. Victoria turned, one eyebrow raised in perfectly calculated disdain. Clara, what a surprise. I thought you'd be, well, somewhere more suitable for your level. Where are the security recordings from today? Excuse me? The cameras, in the service hallway. I want to see them. Victoria laughed, that glass-breaking kind of laugh. The cameras had a technical issue today. Unfortunately, we have no footage. How convenient. Excuse me. Clara crossed her arms. Sophie didn't steal anything, and you know that. The group around them started paying attention. Conversations stopped. People turned. Victoria gave a dangerous smile. Are you accusing me of lying? Again? No, I'm saying you're protecting someone and blaming an innocent employee because she's the easiest one to sacrifice. Mark stepped closer, his voice low and threatening. Careful, Mrs. Cole. Making accusations without proof can be problematic. And that's when Clara felt it, the tingling, rising, fast. No, body. Not now. There are 300 people watching. But her body didn't care about the audience. Clara jumped slightly, a tiny, almost invisible hop. Hands up, knees bent, reflex fully activated. She stayed like that for 3 full seconds. Complete silence in the ballroom. 300 pairs of eyes staring at her. The orchestra stopped playing. Even the waiters froze mid-motion, trays in the air. Clara slowly lowered her arms, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, cheeks burning. Sorry, reflex. Medical issue. Totally involuntary. Please continue dinner. Victoria was red with contained rage. You're ridiculous. Maybe, but I'm not dishonest. Clara took a deep breath. The cameras were not malfunctioning. I've worked with security before. Systems don't just fail. Someone turned them off on purpose. That's absurd. And the necklace? Clara turned to Mrs. Hartman, who was sitting nearby, watching everything with interest. You're still wearing it. Mrs. Hartman touched her neck. The necklace was there, pearls shining perfectly intact. Oh, she blinked. You're right. I put it in my purse earlier. I completely forgot. Freezing silence. Victoria went pale. Mark swallowed hard. Clara turned to them with calm, dangerous control. So, to recap, broken cameras, an employee accused of stealing something that was never stolen, and no one checked before ruining her life. That's what happened? From across the room, the doors opened. Amelia Cole entered, her wheelchair pushed by James, her presence instantly commanding the room. And then she did something she rarely did. Amelia stood up, slowly, with effort, pushing herself up from the chair, visibly straining, but standing, tall, steady. The entire ballroom held its breath. No one, Amelia said, her voice echoing like a bell of justice, underestimates my daughter-in-law. She looked at Victoria with icy calm. You're fired, Victoria. Effective immediately. Mrs. Cole, I can explain. You can leave, now. Victoria walked out in complete silence, her heels hitting the floor like a final verdict. Mark tried to hide behind a Japanese executive. Amelia sat back in her chair, smoothing her skirt with elegance. Clara, dear, bring Sophie in, please. Clara went to get the young woman who was still standing in the hallway, eyes wide. You saved me. I just told the truth. When they returned, Amelia smiled at Sophie. You're promoted, dear. Customer service supervisor, salary doubled. You start Monday. Sophie started crying again, but this time with relief. The executives began to clap. Slowly at first, then louder. Clara stood there in the middle of the room, trying to process it all. Wait, I just caused a manager's firing, saved an employee, and people are clapping? How is this my life now? Amelia motioned for her to come closer. You did the right thing, Clara. I just couldn't stay quiet watching something unfair. That's exactly why you belong in this family. That night, Clara returned to the penthouse exhausted, the dress feeling heavy on her shoulders like armor after a long battle. Ethan was in the living room, working on his laptop. He looked up at her, noticed something different. "You okay?" "I caused a firing today. I heard. My mother called me 3 times. He almost smiled. "She's proud." Clara sat on the sofa, slipping off her shoes with an audible sigh of relief. "I activated the reflex in front of 300 people, Ethan. 300. Including Japanese investors." Ethan closed the laptop. "And still, you stood up for someone. That matters more." They sat in silence for a moment. "Thank you," Clara said softly. "For what?" "For not thinking I'm completely crazy." Ethan stood, walking toward the bedroom, then paused. "I think you're brave. There's a difference," and he left. Clara stayed alone in the living room, looking out at the Manhattan skyline. "Okay, Clara, you survived round 2. Saved someone, earned respect. And your temporary husband just called you brave." She picked up her phone. A message from Rachel. "Saw it on Instagram. Your viral girl Justice for Sophie is trending." Clara opened Instagram. There it was, a shaky video someone had recorded of her reflex move in the ballroom. 3 million views. Comments. "Who is this woman? CEO's wife defending staff? Queen energy. That karate move, though." Clara dropped the phone on the sofa. "Great, now I'm a corporate meme." But deep down, she smiled. Because for the first time, she'd done something that truly mattered. Meanwhile, downstairs in the hotel parking lot, Victoria got into her car with a box of belongings. She picked up her phone. Dialed. "We need to talk about Clara Cole. She just made a mistake, and I'll make sure she pays for it." She hung up, smiled in the dark. The war had only just begun. Clara was staring at her reflection in the elevator as if it could reveal the secrets of the universe. Or at least explain how she went from an unemployed barista to the CEO's wife who has to impress Japanese investors in under a week. Okay, Clara, recap. You know nothing about international corporate finance. You watched 3 YouTube videos on how not to sound dumb in a business meeting. And one of them was a parody. She straightened her blouse for the 5th time, but you did save an employee, went viral online, and haven't fainted yet. So, questionable standards, but still a win. The elevator responded with a ding that sounded like a final judgment bell. The doors opened directly into the main conference room. The kind you see in corporate movies when they want to show a company has real money. A mahogany table that reflected the ceiling. Leather chairs that probably cost more than college tuition. A projection screen the size of a movie theater. And 6 Japanese investors in identical suits sitting like a silent tribunal. Ethan was already there, positioned at the head of the table, laptop open, remote in hand, wearing the expression of a man about to convince people to invest millions, or fail spectacularly trying. He glanced at Clara, gestured subtly to the seat beside him. Clara crossed the room trying to look confident, which is hard when your shoes make squeaky duck noises with every step. She sat down, placed the folder on her lap, breathed. "You can do this. Just sit here quietly. Look nice, decorative, like a well-dressed office plant." Ethan began the presentation. "Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for being here today. We'll review the Q4 numbers and discuss growth projections for the next fiscal year." He clicked the remote. The first spreadsheet appeared on the massive screen, and Clara felt a chill down her spine. Those numbers were, well, like, absurdly wrong. The Q4 profit margin showed 18.3%. But Clara had seen the report that morning. Because yes, she had become the kind of person who reads financial reports over breakfast with toast, and the correct number was 23.7%, a 5-point difference, which in millions of dollars means, well, millions of dollars. Wait, was that sabotage? Someone changed the numbers on purpose? She looked around. In the corner chair, almost invisible, sat Mark Duval, laptop open, wearing the smile of someone who just released a virus into the system and was enjoying the chaos. Clara looked at Ethan, who kept presenting confidently, completely unaware that the data on the screen was mathematical fraud. She had 2 options. 1, stay quiet, let the presentation continue, and watch Ethan lose credibility with international investors. 2, speak up, interrupt, possibly cause public embarrassment, and risk sounding crazy. Obviously, I'll pick option 2, because I never pick the sensible one. She slowly raised her hand. Ethan stopped mid-sentence. "Clara? Sorry to interrupt, but those numbers are wrong." Absolute silence. The 6 investors turned their heads at the same time, like synchronized owls. Mark went pale. Ethan blinked. What? The Q4 profit margin. It says 18.3%, but the correct report from this morning showed 23.7%. That's a 5-point difference. Clara pointed at the screen. And the projected growth is wrong too. It should be 31%, not 27%. Mark stood up quickly. Mrs. Cole, with all due respect, you must be mistaken. I'm not. I read the report 3 times because I have insomnia and read financial documents at 2 a.m. as a questionable hobby. She turned to the investors. May I show you? The group's leader, an older man with glasses and an unreadable face, gave a slight nod. Clara stood, crossed the room, took the remote from Ethan's still shocked hands, and connected her own laptop to the screen. She opened the original file. Correct numbers appeared side by side with the falsified ones. Here, look. Margin 23.7%, growth 31%. Operating revenue $847 million, not $692. The investors leaned forward, interested. Mark tried again. There must have been an upload error. I can explain. You can explain why you tried to sabotage the presentation. Clara crossed her arms. Because either you're extremely incompetent or this was intentional, and considering how long you've worked here, I doubt it's incompetence. Mark swallowed hard. Ethan stood slowly, finally understanding what had happened. Mark, leave the room. Mr. Cole, I can... Now. Mark left in deadly silence, shutting the door with controlled force. Clara was still standing in front of the giant screen, holding the remote like some accidental scepter of authority. The lead investor adjusted his glasses. Mrs. Cole, do you speak Japanese? Clara froze. Japanese? I watched anime in college. I know how to say thank you and where's the bathroom. That does not count as fluent. A little? Would you review the numbers in Japanese for my team? Clara looked at the other 5 investors, who were all watching her with polite expectation. Okay, Clara, 2 options. Admit you don't speak Japanese and look incompetent, or try improvising and risk causing an international diplomatic incident. Wonderful choices. Of course. She smiled with confidence she definitely did not feel. I'll do my best. She went back to her laptop, started mentally translating, mixing the little she knew of Japanese with discreet Google Translate help and a dangerous amount of hope. Edo, Daionchi Hanki Nariki Ritsudo wa Nijusen Tennana Pasento Desu. She took a breath. Q4 profit margin is 23.7%. The investors nodded. Ethan was staring at her like she had just revealed she was a bilingual secret agent. Clara continued, improvising with equal parts courage and desperation. Seicho yosoku wa 31%. Projected growth, 31%. Shueki wa 847 man doru, revenue $847 million. She finished and placed the remote on the table. Please let that have made sense and not accidentally insult someone's grandmother. The lead investor stood up and smiled. Impressive, Mrs. Cole. Your pronunciation is excellent. Clara almost fainted with relief. Thank you. I mean, arigato gozaimasu. He turned to the group. Kanojo subarashi desu, she is wonderful. The others nodded in agreement. Clara sat back down, legs weak, heart racing. Ethan leaned closer and whispered, You speak Japanese? No. I watched a lot of anime and used Google Translate secretly. She whispered back. Don't tell anyone. Ethan was trying not to laugh. For the first time since she'd met him, he was actually trying not to laugh. And that's when Clara realized he was looking at her differently. Not with irritation. Not with tolerance. With admiration. Wait, is he looking at me like I'm interesting, competent, attractive? The tingling came fast. No body. Not now. There are 6 Japanese investors watching, but her body didn't listen. Clara jumped from her chair, full reflex mode, hands raised, knees bent, posture activated, and she froze like that. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. The investors glanced at one another, confused. Ethan closed his eyes, taking a deep breath like someone praying for divine patience. 15 seconds. Clara was still frozen, sweating. Unfreeze now, please, I'm begging you. 20 seconds. The lead investor tilted his head, curious. Is this a Japanese sign of respect? Clara finally unfroze and slowly lowered her hands. Yes, exactly. A sign of respect, very traditional. A demonstration of corporate reverence. What? Corporate reverence? That's not even a thing. But the investor smiled. What a charming gesture. You clearly studied our culture. The other 5 nodded approvingly. Clara sat down, cheeks burning. Ethan was biting his lip hard to keep from laughing. The meeting continued, this time with the correct numbers, and ended with the investors approving the full investment. When they left, only Clara and Ethan remained in the room. Silence. Then Ethan laughed. Not a quiet laugh, a real one. Deep, honest, echoing across the empty room. He leaned against the table, holding his stomach, shoulders shaking. You just convinced Japanese investors that your involuntary karate reflex is a cultural sign of respect. Clara threw her head back, laughing too. I have no idea how that worked. Corporate reverence? I panicked. They laughed until they could barely breathe. When the laughter finally faded, Ethan wiped his eyes. You saved the presentation. I almost ruined the presentation. But you didn't. You. He paused, looking at her with something new in his eyes. You were amazing. Clara felt her heart race. Okay, he just called me amazing. That's good? Confusing? Dangerous, considering our marriage has an expiration date? Before she could respond, the door opened. The lead investor stepped back in. Mrs. Cole, my team would like you to present again tomorrow. We have a meeting with other partners. Your presence would be valuable. Clara blinked. Of course, it would be an honor. He left. Clara turned to Ethan, eyes wide. I just got extra work because of an accidental karate misunderstanding. Ethan smiled, that small, rare smile that completely changed his face. Welcome to international corporate politics, Clara. And downstairs, in the parking lot, Victoria got into her car and saw a notification on her phone. Meeting canceled. Clara Cole will take over presentation. She threw the phone onto the seat with force. She's going to pay for this. Every time. She picked up the phone again. Dialed. We need to move the plan forward. Now. The dress hung on the closet door like a silent accusation. Black. Elegant. Too expensive for Clara to wear without feeling like she'd stolen someone else's life. A note was pinned to the hanger in neat handwriting. Dinner at 8 p.m. Wear this. E. Clara looked at the dress, at the note, then back at the dress. Okay, dress. We need to talk. You're gorgeous. You probably cost more than my kidney on the black market, and I'm pretty sure you'll rip if I breathe wrong. So please cooperate, okay? Don't embarrass me. I don't rip you. You don't rip me. Fair deal. The dress stayed on the hanger, silently judging. At exactly 8, Clara was ready. Or at least looked ready. Inside, it was pure panic and improvisation. Ethan was in the living room, wearing a dark suit that probably cost as much as 3 months of her old rent. He turned when she came out of the room and stopped. He looked at her in a way that made Clara wonder if she'd forgotten to remove a price tag or had toothpaste on her face. You look. He paused, searching for the word. Beautiful. Clara felt the tingling begin again. No. Body, I swear. If you activate now, I'll sabotage you myself. She took 3 deep breaths and tucked her hair behind her ear. Thank you. You look good too. Like presentable. Probably smell nice. Not that I smelled you. You just seem like someone who smells nice. Not in a weird way. In a normal, expensive cologne way. Ethan almost smiled. Let's go before you keep complimenting me. The restaurant was the kind of place where even the air felt expensive. Dim lights. Candles on every table. Waiters moving like trained dancers. A menu without prices, because if you had to ask, you probably didn't belong there. Clara sat in the chair the waiter pulled out for her with exaggerated grace, doing her best to look natural. Relax, Clara. It's just dinner. You eat. You know how to eat. You do it every day, usually with instant noodles and Netflix, but the concept is the same. Ethan ordered wine. The waiter vanished quietly. An awkward silence settled over the table like fog. Clara picked up the napkin, unfolded it, placed it on her lap, realized she'd unfolded it wrong, tried to fix it. The napkin slipped, fell to the floor. She bent down to grab it, hit her head on the table. Ow! Ethan leaned forward, worried. Are you all right? Clara sat back up, holding her forehead, napkin in hand. Yes, perfect. Just testing the density of the marble. Very solid, 5 stars, I recommend it. Ethan laughed. That sounds still new and rare. The one that made Clara forget for 2 seconds that their marriage had an expiration date. The waiter returned with a bottle of wine that probably cost more than a small car. Clara took a sip. Too big. Coughed. Ethan handed her water. Slow down. I know how to drink wine. She wiped her mouth with the napkin. I just don't usually drink wine that costs. How much does this one cost? Doesn't matter. That means a lot. Clara looked at the glass with new respect. Okay. I'll treat you with the dignity you deserve. She set it down carefully, like she was handling an explosive. Ethan watched her, something unrateable in his eyes. You're different. Different as in interesting. Or different as in should probably seek professional help. Interesting. Refreshing. He swirled his wine. Most people in my world are pretending all the time. You don't. Oh, I pretend plenty. Clara laughed. I pretend I know what I'm doing in business meetings. I pretend I understand corporate finance. I pretend I'm not afraid of the fish fork. Fish fork? Clara pointed to the 4 forks beside her plate. 4 forks, Ethan. 4. Why does anyone need 4 forks? It's food, not heart surgery. Ethan laughed again, louder this time, earning a few glances from nearby tables. Use the one on the outside first. Of course, obviously. Totally intuitive. Clara picked up the outermost fork with fake confidence. I knew that, definitely. Dinner arrived. Something sophisticated she couldn't pronounce, but that looked delicious. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Then Ethan set down his fork and looked at her with a seriousness that made her stop chewing. There's something I need to tell you. Clara swallowed slowly. He's going to say the marriage is over, or that he met someone else, or that I'm too embarrassing for public events. Or, I'm not just the CEO of the hotel division. Clara blinked. What? I'm the president of the entire coal empire. Hotels, tech, investments, properties, all of it. Silence. Clara placed her fork down carefully. Wait, president? Like, the actual president? Of everything? Yes. And you didn't think that was relevant to mention before? My mother wanted you to know only the basics at first. He ran a hand through his hair. She thought if you knew the full size of the empire, you'd run. She was right. Clara jumped up, sat down again, jumped up again. I should be running right now. Why am I not running? People at nearby tables turned to look. Ethan motioned for calm. Clara. President, Ethan. President, I thought you were like a handsome senior manager, not commander of the entire empire. Technically, my mother is still the chair of the board. I don't care about technicalities. Clara sat back down, breathing deeply. Okay. Processing. You're president of an empire that has how many employees? 53,000. Clara put her head in her hands. I pretended to speak Japanese with Google Translate in front of investors from the president's company. I'm going to be arrested for linguistic fraud. Ethan laughed again. You were brilliant. I was lucky they didn't find out. You improvised with courage. He leaned forward. Clara, look at me. She lifted her face from her hands. His eyes were serious, intense, and something else that made her heart race. You came into my life like a hurricane. No warning, no permission, and you changed everything. Clara felt the tingling start. Not now, please, not now. Ethan, I spent 2 years building walls, keeping everyone away, being cold, efficient, controlled. He took her hand across the table. Then you showed up, saved my mother from a puddle with involuntary karate, married me in 48 hours, turned my life upside down. The tingling surged. And the worst part? Ethan smiled, that small, devastating smile. I don't want you to stop. Clara's reflexes kicked in. She jumped out of her chair, full defensive stance. Hands up, napkin flying through the air like a white flag of comic surrender, and froze. 5 seconds, 10 seconds. The entire restaurant was staring. A waiter froze mid-step, tray in the air. The couple at the next table sat with their forks suspended. 15 seconds. Clara frozen, sweating, mortified. Unfreeze! I'm begging you. Any divinity listening, help! Ethan stood up calmly, walked over, and gently held her shoulders. Breathe. I am breathing. Slowly, Clara breathed. Once, twice, 3 times. Finally, she unfroze, lowered her hands, cheeks burning with embarrassment. I'm sorry. You said something nice, and my body panicked. Ethan was smiling, not with amusement, but with something softer. I noticed. This is literally the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me, and I once fell off an escalator in front of 40 people. It was charming. It was ridiculous. It was you. He was still holding her shoulders. And I liked you, Clara. Truly. Not because of the contract, not because my mother planned it. Because you're... you. Clara felt tears threatening. Do not cry. You already activated involuntary karate. If you cry too, it'll look like a full emotional breakdown. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Ethan released her shoulders but stayed close. Just think about it, please. They returned to the table in silence. Finished dinner with small talk, but something had changed. When they got back to the penthouse, Clara went straight to her room, closed the door, leaned against it, picked up her phone, texted Rachel. He said he likes me. For real. Instant reply. And you? Do you like him? Clara looked at her reflection in the mirror. Elegant dress, slightly messy hair, eyes shining. I don't know, Rachel, I really don't know. But deep down, she did, and that scared her more than any involuntary reflex. On the other side of the door, Ethan leaned against the hallway wall. For the first time in a long while, he had completely let his guard down, and for the first time, he wasn't sure he'd done the right thing. The message arrived at 7 in the morning. Honey, we're coming to New York. We want to see you, Mom. Clara stared at the phone as if it had just announced an alien invasion. No. No. She sat on the bed, typing frantically. Mom, maybe now's not the best time. I'm kind of busy with. We're already in the taxi. We'll be there in 20 minutes. Wes, Clara threw the phone on the bed. 20 minutes? She looked in the mirror. Ridiculous cat print pajamas, hair like a bird's nest after a storm, the face of someone who'd slept 3 hours trying to process a love confession. Perfect, Clara. Your family's about to meet your billionaire husband while you look like someone who lost a fight with a pillow. She ran to the bathroom. Fastest shower in history. Clean clothes. Desperate attempt to tame her hair. 15 minutes later, she was pacing in the living room like a tiger in a small cage. Okay, phone. She picked it up. Let's review. My parents think I'm married for love. They do not know it was a contract. They do not know Ethan runs an empire. They do not know I pretend to speak Japanese with Google Translate. So basically, I'm doomed. The phone didn't answer, but Clara Swart judged her. Ethan came out of the office, coffee in hand, looking half awake. Are you talking to yourself again? My family is coming. Ethan almost spilled his coffee. What? 20 minutes? They're coming. Here. Now. No warning, because my mother doesn't understand the concept of scheduling visits. Clara, breathe. I can't breathe. My parents are going to meet you. You're the president. They'll think I married corporate royalty. They'll ask questions. Questions I don't know how to answer. Ethan set his coffee down and took her by the shoulders. It'll be fine. How do you know? Because you survived Japanese investors thinking your involuntary karate was a cultural technique. You can handle your parents. Clara took 3 deep breaths. You're right. I can do this. Totally. Probably. The doorbell rang. Maybe I can't. Ethan opened the door. And there they were, Margaret and Thomas Winslow. Clara's mother, gray hair, warm smile, the wool coat she'd worn since Clara was a kid. Clara's father, neatly trimmed mustache, glasses, wool sweater, the expression of a man who trusts GPS way too much and still gets lost anyway. Margaret saw Clara and screamed. Daughter, she ran over and hugged Clara so tightly it knocked the air out of her. Mom, can't breathe. You're so thin. Are you eating properly? Margaret pulled back, cupping Clara's face. And this apartment. Look at this place. It's bigger than our entire house. Thomas stepped inside, looking around with wide eyes. This is a real penthouse with a view of Manhattan. He took off his glasses, cleaned them, and put them back on. I thought you were exaggerating when you said you married well, but this is another dimension of married well. Clara turned to Ethan, who was standing there with impeccable manners. Mom, Dad, this is Ethan. My husband. The words still sounded strange coming out of her mouth. Margaret looked Ethan up and down. That classic mother's look that evaluates a son-in-law in 3 seconds and decides if he passes or not. And then she smiled. My goodness, he's handsome. Mom, what? He is. Margaret turned to Thomas. Honey, look at his nose. Perfectly symmetrical. Mom, stop. Ethan was trying not to laugh. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. and Mrs. Winslow. Thomas shook his hand a bit too firmly, that testing the son-in-law kind of handshake. Take good care of my daughter. Dad, we literally just got here. I'm taking care of her, sir, Ethan said with a calm seriousness that made Clara glance at him in surprise. Margaret couldn't stop smiling. And he's polite too. Clara, you did it. Finally, after that boyfriend who thought the microwave was a gourmet appliance. Mom, no one needs to know that. Ethan was definitely holding back laughter now. They sat in the living room, or rather Margaret and Thomas sat on the sofa that probably cost more than a car, trying to look natural and failing spectacularly. Clara brought coffee. Almost spilled the tray. Recovered at the last second. Calm down, Clara. It's just coffee. You've served coffee to international investors. You can serve it to your parents without a disaster. She sat beside Ethan, too stiff, trying to look relaxed and failing completely. Margaret took a sip of coffee, sighed happily. So, Ethan, Clara told us you work with hotels. Yes, among other things. He's the president, Clara said quickly, of the entire company. 53,000 employees. Absolute silence. Thomas nearly dropped his cup. President? President? President. Yes, Ethan confirmed calmly. Margaret looked at Clara, then at Ethan, then back at Clara. Daughter, you married the president? Technically, yes. And you didn't think that was worth mentioning before? I was processing. Thomas got up, pacing the room like a man in shock. My daughter married a president. My daughter who used to eat instant noodles for breakfast. My daughter who once tried to bake a cake and created something the fire department classified as a culinary incident. Dad, that was one incident. Margaret kept staring at Ethan. You're handsome, polite, rich, and a president. She leaned forward. What's the flaw? Everyone has one. Do you grind your teeth? Collect something strange? Afraid of birds? Mom, Ethan smiled. That small, devastating smile. I'm a workaholic, and very stubborn. Margaret waved a hand, dismissing it. That's not a flaw. That's a CEO personality trait. She turned to Clara. Daughter, you nailed it. And that's when the tingling started. No. Body, I swear, if you activate now in front of my parents. But the mix of excessive praise, family pressure, Ethan watching her, perfect storm of involuntary reflex. Clara jumped off the sofa. Full movement. Hands up, defensive stance, coffee cup flying in slow-motion cinematic arc. The cup twirled in the air. Dark coffee forming a perfect arc, and landed right on Thomas's lap. Ah, frozen. Everyone frozen. Clara locked in the pose. Thomas with coffee on his lap, Margaret with her hand over her mouth, Ethan already moving to get a towel. 5 seconds of deadly silence. Clara unfroze, lowering her hands slowly. Sorry, Dad. I have a reflex. Involuntary. Neurological issue. Totally documented. Probably. Thomas looked at his soaked pants. At Clara. Back at his pants. You threw coffee at me with karate? It wasn't on purpose. Ethan returned with a towel, handing it to Thomas with impressive calm. It happens often. The involuntary karate? Yes. Thomas dabbed at his pants, processing. My daughter has involuntary karate and married a president. My life just got a lot more interesting. After the coffee crisis passed and Thomas changed into pants Ethan lent him, which were way too big, they all sat down again. Margaret pulled a folder from her bag. Ethan, actually, we came here for another reason too. Mom, don't. Clara, let me talk. Margaret opened the folder. We have a small family bakery. It's been in our family for 3 generations. And, well, we're thinking about expanding. Nothing big, just opening one more store. But we need a small investment. She showed the papers. Modest plans, simple numbers, a humble dream. Clara felt her chest tighten. Mom, you don't have to ask him for that. Ethan took the papers, read them in silence. How much do you need? 50,000, Thomas said quickly. But we'll pay it back in 5 years with interest. We've got the whole plan. I'll invest. Silence. What? Margaret blinked. I'll invest. 100,000. No interest. You can pay me back whenever you can. Ethan looked at Clara. Family matters. Clara felt tears threatening to fall. Don't cry. You've already done karate and spilled coffee on your father. If you cry now, it's going to look like a complete emotional breakdown. But it was too late. A tear slipped down. Ethan noticed. He brushed it gently from her face with his thumb. Are you okay? You just invested in my parents' dream. I know, without even asking for details. I trust you, he smiled softly. And if they raised you, they must be wonderful people. Margaret was crying too now. Thomas wiped his glasses for the 5th time, clearly moved. When her parents left, promising to visit soon, hugging Ethan like he was already part of the family, Clara stood at the door, waving until they disappeared. She closed it, leaned against it. Ethan was in the living room, putting away the bakery papers. Thank you, Clara said quietly. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. You didn't have to do that. Ethan turned, looking at her with steady intensity. I did it because I wanted to, not because I had to, not because of the contract. He stepped closer. I did it because your parents matter to you, and you matter to me. Clara's heart started racing. Ethan, he took her hand. I know you're still processing what I said yesterday, and I'm not going to push, but I need you to know. He took a deep breath. This stopped being a contract a long time ago. Before Clara could respond, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You think you've won, but I still have cards to play. V. Clara felt her blood turn cold. Victoria. And she was planning something. 2 months had passed since that threatening message. 2 months of waiting for Victoria's strike that never came, or hadn't yet. 2 months of living with Ethan that had gone from awkward to comfortable. Natural. Real. 2 months in which the paper contract had turned into something neither of them could quite name anymore. And now, Clara was staring at the pregnancy test like it was an archaeological artifact she'd just unearthed, with no idea what to do with it. 2 lines. 2 pink lines. 2 lines that meant her life had just gotten infinitely more complicated. Okay, test. Let's talk. Clara held the little stick with both trembling hands. Are you sure? Like absolutely sure? Because I need you to be 100% confident before I go into full panic mode. The test didn't answer, but the 2 pink lines stayed right there, stubborn and undeniable. Clara sat on the bathroom floor. Pregnant. I'm pregnant. By a man I met saving his mother from a puddle using accidental karate. A man who married me under contract. A man who, 2 months later, confessed he actually likes me, and now I'm having his baby. She took 5 deep breaths. Didn't help. She grabbed her phone, called Rachel. Rachel answered on the second ring. Clara, it's 6 in the morning. Is someone having a heart attack? I'm pregnant. Silence. Repeat that slowly with details. Pregnant, Rachel. Pregnant. 2 pink lines, clear as day. On the test I took 3 times because I thought the first one was broken. Oh my God, oh my God, Rachel shouted through the phone. Did you tell Ethan? No, I just found out. I'm sitting on the bathroom floor having an existential crisis. Clara, breathe. You can do this. You've saved employees from corporate injustice. You improvise Japanese with Google Translate. You can tell your husband he's going to be a father. What if he doesn't want it? What if he thinks I'm setting him up? What if? Clara, Rachel interrupted. That man invested $100,000 in your parents' bakery. He cares about you. He will want this. Clara took a deep breath. You're right, I'll tell him. Eventually. After I process, and maybe after some serious therapy. She hung up. Stayed on the bathroom floor for another 10 minutes, staring at the ceiling. Then she had an idea. Amelia. She needed to talk to Amelia first. An hour later, Clara was in the Cole matriarch's office, an elegant space with panoramic views filled with awards and family photos. Amelia sat behind the desk in her wheelchair, reading reports through her glasses. She looked up when Clara walked in. Clara dear, what a surprise, she said warmly. Sit down. Would you like coffee? Tea? I can't have coffee. Clara sat, holding her purse in her lap like a shield, for about 9 months. Amelia froze. She slowly removed her glasses, looked at Clara with that piercing gaze that saw everything. You're pregnant. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. Clara nodded, tears threatening to fall. I found out this morning. I took 3 tests, all positive. I'm panicking, Amelia. I don't know if Ethan will want this. I don't know if I'm ready. I barely know how to be a responsible adult, and now I'm going to be a mother. Amelia stood up from her chair, slowly, with effort, holding on to the arms, but stood tall and crossed the office. She hugged Clara tightly. You're going to be a wonderful mother. Clara started to really cry now. How do you know? Because you have the most generous heart I've ever seen. Amelia stepped back, holding Clara's face. You defended an employee you didn't even know. You saved a corporate presentation. You make my son laugh, Clara. Something I thought I'd never see again after the accident. But what if he doesn't want the baby? He will. Amelia smiled with absolute certainty. My son is in love with you, even if he's still realizing it. He'll want this baby more than anything. Clara wiped her tears. I'm scared. Fear is normal. Amelia returned to her chair with graceful composure. But you're not alone. You have family now. My family, and we protect our own. Clara smiled through her tears. Thank you. Now go tell Ethan. Amelia picked up the phone. He's in his office. And Clara? Yes? Congratulations, dear. You just gave me the best gift, a grandchild to spoil. Clara walked to Ethan's office with her heart pounding like a war drum. She knocked. Come in. She opened the door. Ethan was behind his desk, laptop open, suit perfect, fully focused. He looked up and smiled, that small smile that transformed his whole face. Hi, everything okay? I need to tell you something. He immediately closed the laptop. Sit down. Clara sat, took 3 deep breaths. You can do this. Just say it. 3 words. I'm pregnant. Simple. Direct. No drama. I'm pregnant. Total silence. Ethan froze. Completely. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. Clara started sweating. He's processing, or in shock, or thinking about ending the marriage. Or. Ethan stood up. Crossed the office, held her face in both hands. Are you sure? I took 3 tests, all positive. You're pregnant. He repeated it like testing the weight of the words. Really, really. And then Ethan smiled, not a small smile, a real one, wide and radiant. We're going to have a baby. Yes, a baby. He laughed, the sound filling the office. Clara, we're gonna have a baby. He pulled her into a hug so tight she could barely breathe. Ethan, need air. He let go but kept his hands on her shoulders. Sorry, He was smiling, truly smiling. I didn't expect to feel this happy. Clara felt tears of relief. You want this? Really? Clara, I want everything with you. He kissed her forehead. The baby, the life, everything. And that's when the door opened, without knocking. A woman walked in, tall, brunette, fitted red dress, heels clicking with authority, expression of someone who believed she belonged everywhere. Chloe Hartman. She stopped when she saw Ethan and Clara together, still in each other's arms. Ethan, darling, I came to. She paused, looking at Clara like she was a stain on an expensive rug. And who is this? Ethan turned, tension rising in his shoulders. Chloe, what are you doing here? I came to talk about the merger proposal. She smiled sharply, and clearly walked in at a bad time. She looked Clara up and down with calculated disdain. You must be the temporary wife. I heard about you. How cute. Clara's blood boiled. Wife, without the temporary. And you are? Chloe Hartman, CEO of Hartman Industries. She crossed her arms, and a former friend of Ethan's. Friend, right, the kind that wants to be much more than that. Clara felt the tingling rise. No body. She's not a physical threat, just emotional and social. You don't need to. But her body didn't listen. Clara jumped, a tiny reflexive move, hands up, defensive posture. Froze for 3 fatal seconds. Chloe's eyes widened. Did she just do karate at me? Ethan held back laughter. Clara unfroze and slowly lowered her hands. Involuntary reflex, neurological issue. Documented. Completely normal. Chloe rolled her eyes. How peculiar. She turned to Ethan. Anyway, we need to talk. Alone. No. Ethan placed his hand on Clara's waist, protective and firm. Whatever you have to say it in front of my wife. Chloe turned red. Ethan, be reasonable. I am reasonable, and the answer is no, to whatever you came to propose. Chloe looked at Clara with barely contained hatred. You'll regret this. She spun on her heels. Both of you will regret it. She left, slamming the door. Clara exhaled the breath she'd been holding. Who is she? Ex-girlfriend, Ethan sighed. From a long time ago, before the accident. She didn't take the breakup well. She seems like the kind of person who collects revenge stories. That's exactly what she does. He pulled Clara close again. But she's not going to touch you, I promise. Clara rested her head against his chest. Your life was simpler before you met me, wasn't it? It was. He kissed the top of her head, and infinitely more boring. That night, Clara lay in bed staring at the ceiling, hand on her still flat stomach. There's a baby growing here. A baby. Half me, half Ethan. This is absolute madness. Ethan walked into the room, something rare, since they still slept separately. Can I come in? You already did. He smiled and sat on the edge of the bed. I just wanted to say thank you. For what? For giving me something I thought I'd never have. He took her hand. A real family. Clara felt tears threatening again. Hormones. Definitely hormones. Or real feelings, probably both. Ethan, yes? I think I'm falling in love with you. He smiled, that devastating smile. I know I'm in love with you. And for the first time, they slept in the same room. Nothing happened beyond hugs and soft conversations about the future. But it was perfect. Outside the building, Chloe got into her car. She picked up her phone and called someone. We need to talk about Ethan Cole and that ridiculous wife of his. She's pregnant, and I'm going to use that against them. She hung up, smiled in the dark. The war had only just begun. Clara was trying to assemble a crib. It should have been simple. The manual had drawings, universal drawings that any functional human brain should be able to follow. But Clara had been staring at step 3 for 40 minutes like it was alien code written in Egyptian hieroglyphs mixed with quantum math. Okay, manual, we're going to have a serious talk here. She held the thin booklet in both hands. You say, insert screw B into hole C, but I count 6 screw Bs, 6, and only 3 hole Cs. The math doesn't add up. The manual didn't respond, but Clara could swear it was mocking her. She dropped it, grabbed the screwdriver, and looked at the disassembled crib spread across the floor like the aftermath of an industrial accident. All right, crib pieces. You're wood. Wood is natural. Trees grow by themselves. Why can't you assemble yourselves too? Where's the logic? The doorbell rang. Clara looked at the door, then at the crib, then at her reflection in the window, hair sticking to her forehead from sweat, t-shirt covered in dust, holding a screwdriver like some kind of medieval weapon. Perfect. I look like someone who lost a fight with furniture. Great first impression. She opened the door and froze. The man standing there was an older, colder, infinitely more intimidating version of Ethan. Tall, wearing a suit clearly made by Italian artists. Gray hair, perfectly combed. Blue eyes analyzing Clara like a buyer inspecting livestock. Henry Cole. He looked her up and down, full analysis, instant judgment. You must be Clara. His voice was as cold as a Siberian winter. The wife. Clara looked at the screwdriver in her hand, then at him, then back at the tool. Great, Clara. You're meeting the patriarch of a billionaire empire while looking like a mechanic who's given up on life. Yes, and you must be the intimidating father-in-law I hadn't officially met yet. She forced a smile. Come in, or don't. I'm kind of busy having an existential crisis with uncooperative furniture. Henry walked in without waiting for an invitation. Of course, because powerful men don't wait for invites, they just invade. He looked around the penthouse with the expression of someone evaluating property for purchase. So you're the woman my son decided to acquire. Clara felt her blood boil. Acquire. She slammed the screwdriver on the table so hard it echoed through the room. I'm not property. I'm not an object. I'm a person, with feelings and a college degree and highly problematic self-defense reflexes. Henry raised an eyebrow with surgical precision. Reflexes of what exactly? And of course, at that exact moment, because the universe had a cruel sense of humor, the tingling started, rising up her legs, fast, unstoppable. No body, not in front of the billionaire father-in-law, for the love of everything sacred, that the body doesn't negotiate with logic. Clara jumped, full movement, hands up in defensive position, knees bent, full combat stance. Right in front of the patriarch, the retired CEO, the man who probably had the power to ruin lives with a single phone call. She froze. 5 seconds of dead silence. Henry stared at her like a scientist observing a new species of insect. Did you just try to attack me? Clara finally unfroze, lowering her hands slowly, cheeks burning with pure embarrassment. No, it wasn't an attack. It's a reflex. Involuntary. I can't control it. It's like, she searched for a comparison desperately. It's like a hiccup, but with karate. A karate hiccup. Henry blinked slowly. Once, twice. My son married a woman who has karate hiccups. Basically, yes. Clara waved her hands frantically. And before you ask, there's no cure. I've tried yoga, meditation, therapy, calming tea. Nothing works. My body has a mind of its own and terrible social timing. Henry kept staring at her for an uncomfortably long moment. Then he sat on the couch. Uninvited, because apparently invading personal space was a genetic trait in the Cole family. I came to make you an offer, Clara. Clara crossed her arms, suspicious. What kind of offer? You annul this ridiculous marriage, receive a very generous financial compensation, and disappear from my son's life. The silence that followed was as thick as concrete. No. $3 million. Clara nearly choked on her own breath. $3 million? Clara, no. It's blackmail. You love Ethan. You're pregnant. You can't. No, she repeated, firmer this time, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Her automatic calming gesture. Henry leaned forward, fingers interlaced, expression dangerous. $5 million, and I guarantee that your parents' small business stays operational. No complications. No incidents. Clara felt her blood freeze, then boil. Did you just threaten my family? I'm offering protection and opportunity. Henry smiled, that kind of smile that never reached his eyes. Think carefully, Clara. You're a smart woman. You know you don't belong in this world. You know that eventually my son will tire of this fantasy. Get out. Clara, I said get out. She pointed at the door, her hand trembling with anger. Now! The door opened at that exact moment. Ethan walked in, suit slightly undone, tie loosened, the look of a man who'd had a long day. He froze when he saw his father. His expression turned to ice. What are you doing here? Henry stood up with calculated calm. Trying to save you from a monumental mistake, son. Marrying Clara was the best decision I've ever made in my life. She's pregnant, Ethan. Henry played the card with surgical precision. Do you really believe that wasn't planned? That it isn't a trap to tie you down? Ethan crossed the room in 3 strides, stopping inches from his father. You have 3 seconds to leave, voluntarily. Or what? You'll throw me out? I'll make you leave. And it won't be pleasant. Henry looked at Clara, then at Ethan, then back at Clara. You choose her or the family. You can't have both. Then I choose her. Ethan didn't hesitate for a second. No doubt. No regret. The door opened again, and Amelia Cole entered in her wheelchair, pushed by James, holding a folder of documents like it was a court ruling. Her voice was cold, sharp. What an absolutely unpleasant surprise. Henry went visibly pale. Amelia, did you really think I wouldn't find out you were trying to blackmail my daughter-in-law? She dropped the folder on the coffee table with force. My pregnant daughter-in-law? She opened the folder. Perfectly organized documents. Here, divorce papers, signed, finalized 6 months ago. You have no legal authority over this family. She picked up another document. And this, a transfer of shares. 30% of my shares in Cole Industries now belong to Clara Winslow Cole. Absolute silence. Clara's knees went weak. 30%. Her voice jumped 3 octaves. 30, like the number 3 followed by a 0. Amelia smiled. That smile of pure power. You're now a major shareholder with me, dear. The 2 of us together control the company. She turned to Henry with icy calm. And you, Henry? You have absolutely no power here. Ever again. Henry looked at his ex-wife, at his son, at Clara. And for the first time since he walked in, he looked defeated. He left in silence, closing the door behind him with the sound of a lost battle. As soon as he was gone, Clara tried to sit on the couch. Her leg caught on the disassembled crib. She stumbled, fell right on the floor with a loud thump that echoed through the room. She stayed there, staring at the ceiling, arms spread wide. Great. Perfect. Now I'm a shareholder of a billion-dollar empire and I can't even walk without falling. Excellent combination of professional skills. Ethan tried to hold back a laugh and failed spectacularly, sitting down on the floor beside her. Need help? I need someone to invent a crib that assembles itself, with artificial intelligence, and a manual that actually makes sense. Amelia watched them from the couch, smiling softly. You 2 are perfect for each other. Clara looked up at her mother-in-law, upside down. Amelia, you just gave me 30% of an empire. I can't even calculate what that's worth. It's worth enough so you'll never have to worry about anything again. Amelia stood up with effort, leaning on James. And it's worth making sure men like Henry never have power over this family again. She nodded to James. Come on, leave the 2 of them alone. They left, closing the door softly. Clara and Ethan remained sitting on the floor, surrounded by disassembled crib pieces. Your father offered me $5 million to leave you. I know. Ethan ran his hand through his hair. He does that with everyone I start to care about. And you chose me. Without hesitation, Clara felt tears rising. Hormones. Definitely hormones. Or love. Probably both. Thank you. For what? For choosing me. Even when it would have been easier not to. Ethan held her face with both hands. Clara, you are the easy choice. You always were. They kissed there on the floor, surrounded by crib parts that refused to make sense. And for the first time in a long time, Clara felt completely safe. That night, Ethan was in the office answering overdue emails. New notification. Email from an unknown sender. Subject, congratulations on the baby. He opened it. 1 line of text. It would be a pity if something happened to the mother. Attachment. Photo of Clara leaving the doctor's office, taken that afternoon. An angle that showed someone was following her. Ethan felt his blood run cold. He grabbed the phone, called security. I need a 24-hour team for my wife. Effective immediately. He hung up. Looked at the photo again. Someone was watching. And the threat was very, very real. The nameplate on the door was new, shiny, intimidating, with her name engraved in gold letters that Clara still could not believe were real. Clara Winslow Cole, Chief Operating Officer. She stood in the hallway, staring at the plate as if it were an optical illusion. Okay, nameplate. I know you're pretty. I know you have my name, but are you sure there wasn't a mistake? Like a huge administrative error where they confused Clara Winslow Cole with another Clara who really knows what she's doing? The plate did not answer, but it stayed there. Stubborn, real, incredibly official. Clara took 5 deep breaths. You can do this. You saved a corporate presentation. You improvised Japanese. You faced a billionaire patriarch. You can be co-au for a day without causing an international corporate collapse. She opened the door. The office was impressive. Mahogany desk, leather chair, panoramic view of Manhattan, computer with 3 screens because apparently executives need multiple dimensions to work. Clara sat in the chair, spun once, twice, 3 times. This is a CEO chair. It spins smoothly, like a rotating cloud of corporate power. She stopped spinning when she realized she was getting dizzy. She looked at the day's schedule on the computer. 9. Meeting with Victoria Maddox and Mark Duval. Clara felt her stomach tighten. Of course, my first official day as COO, and I have to confront the people who tried to destroy me. Excellent planning by the universe. There was a knock at the door. Come in. Amelia entered in her wheelchair, smiling with proud motherly air. How are you feeling, dear? Like an imposter dressed well in an office that doesn't deserve me. Nonsense. Amelia approached. You saved this company multiple times. You deserve every inch of this office. Amelia, I don't even know exactly what a COO does. I Googled it last night and I'm still confused. Amelia laughed. That elegant sound that made everything feel manageable. You'll learn. And Clara? She held her hand. Be generous with Victoria and Mark today. Show that real power doesn't need revenge. Clara nodded, swallowing hard. At 9 sharp, Victoria and Mark entered the office. Victoria looked different, without her usual arrogant glow, hair less perfect, expression of someone who'd slept little and cried a lot. Mark seemed smaller somehow, slumped shoulders, rumpled suit. They sat in the chairs across from the desk like defendants awaiting sentence. Clara took a deep breath. You can do this. Be adult. Be professional. Do not activate the reflex. Thank you for coming. Victoria looked at her with genuine surprise. Thank you. Yes, I know this wasn't easy. Clara arranged the papers on the desk. Do you know why you're here? To humiliate us? Mark said softly. To rub in our faces that you won? No. Clara leaned forward. I called you here to offer a dignified way out. Absolute silence. Victoria blinked. What? You have 2 options. Clara pushed 2 envelopes across the desk. Option 1, a full investigation, public exposure of all sabotage, possible legal action. You leave here with your reputations destroyed and 0 references. Mark went pale. Or option 2, you sign a voluntary severance agreement, receive a fair compensation package, and I write honest letters of recommendation for you. Highlighting your real skills, not the mistakes. Victoria looked at the envelope as if it were a trap. Why would you do that? Clara thought for a moment. Because I remember what it was like to be underestimated, to be treated like you don't belong. And I don't want to be the kind of person who makes others feel that way, even when they deserve it. We tried to destroy you, Victoria whispered, tears in her eyes. I know, and you failed. Clara smiled softly. But that doesn't mean I need to destroy you back. Revenge doesn't build anything. It just multiplies pain. Mark opened the envelope with trembling hands. He read it and his eyes widened. This is too generous. It's fair, Clara corrected. Fair is different from generous. Victoria wiped her tears, trying to keep her composure. I underestimated you completely. Lots of people do that. Clara stood and extended her hand. Good luck, Victoria. Truly. Victoria shook her hand, a firm, respectful grip. Thank you, and I'm sorry for everything. Mark shook her hand too, nodding in silent gratitude. When they left, Clara sat back down in the chair. She realized she was shaking. The door opened. Ethan entered. Are you okay? I just acted like an adult and a mature person. Clara looked at him with wide eyes. I was generous to people who tried to ruin me. Who am I? Ethan laughed, crossing the office and sitting on the edge of the desk. You are the most amazing woman I know. I am the person who almost activated involuntary karate 3 times during that meeting. My leg was shaking from holding the reflex back. But you held it. With superhuman effort. Clara gestured dramatically. My body wanted to jump, but my brain kept repeating, no, Clara, you're cool now. CEOs do not attack people at termination meetings. Ethan was trying not to laugh and failing spectacularly. You're evolving. I'm becoming a functional adult against my will. Clara flung back into the chair. And I hate that it makes me feel good. I should be angry, wanting revenge, but I only feel light. Like I let go of a weight I didn't know I was carrying. Ethan held her hand. That's called growth, Clara. Growth is exhausting. She squeezed his hand back, but worth it, I guess. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Ethan? Yes? I still don't know what a ko-oo does. He laughed. That genuine sound she loved. You'll learn, and you'll be brilliant at it. That afternoon, Clara was organizing papers when she found a white envelope hidden in the desk drawer. No sender, no identification. She opened it slowly. A photo fell out of Clara, Ethan, and Amelia, taken inside the penthouse, through the window, with a message in red handwriting. "Congratulations on the promotion. Now you have much more to lose." Clara felt her blood run cold. She picked up the phone with shaking hands. "Ethan, someone is watching us." And they got into the building. Silence on the other end of the line, tense. "Call security. Now. I'm coming." Clara looked at the photo again and noticed something in the corner. A reflection in the window. A blurred face, but visible. Chloe Hartman. It wasn't just a threat, it was war. And Chloe had just declared battle. 3 weeks later, Clara stood looking at the dress hanging on the closet door. It wasn't the registry office dress. That one had been borrowed, practical, soulless. This dress was different. Soft white, delicate lace, simple but beautiful in a way that made her heart tighten. A dress chosen by her, for a vow renewal she really wanted. "Okay, dress. Last time we spoke, you were representative of a fake wedding. Today you are. You are real. And that scares me a lot." The dress swayed slightly in the window breeze as if agreeing. Clara put her hand on her belly, still small, but visible now at 4 months. A belly that held a baby who was half her, half Ethan. How did my life go from unemployed eating instant noodles to pregnant COO renewing vows with a billionaire in 5 months? A gentle knock on the door. "Daughter? May I come in?" Margaret Winslow entered, already crying before she even saw Clara in the dress. "Mom, you didn't even look at me yet." "I know you look beautiful. I'm your mother. I feel these things." Margaret grabbed a tissue from her purse, wiping her eyes. "Besides, you're my daughter. You are beautiful. Always have been." Clara felt her own tears threatening. "Stop crying, or I will cry and my makeup will melt. I can't stop." Margaret sobbed dramatically. "My baby getting married for real. To a man who loves her for real. And there's going to be a baby. I'm going to be a grandmother." "Technically, you're going to be a grandmother. The baby's still cooking." Margaret laughed through her tears, hugging Clara carefully so she wouldn't wrinkle the dress. "I'm so proud of you. Even when I almost activate involuntary karate at inappropriate moments?" "Especially because of that." Margaret cupped her face. "You're one of a kind, Clara, and Ethan loves you exactly the way you are." Crazy reflexes included. Another knock on the door. Rachel burst in like a tornado of energy and excitement. "Is the bride ready?" She stopped when she saw Clara. "Oh my gosh, you look perfect. Stop yelling or the baby will be born with hearing trauma. The baby needs to get used to Aunt Rachel right away." Rachel adjusted Clara's veil carefully. "Seriously, my friend, you look, wow." Clara looked at her reflection in the mirror, and for the first time in a long time she saw herself clearly. Not the insecure girl who saved a woman in a wheelchair from a puddle, but the woman who built a family, a career, and a life she never thought possible. "I'm ready." The ceremony took place in the garden of the Cole mansion, an intimate space, just close family and friends. White flowers, soft lights, a string quartet playing, no excess, no corporate show, just love, real, true. Clara held her father's arm at the garden entrance. Thomas was trying not to cry and failing completely. "Dad, you're crying." "I know." He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "I'm a father. It's allowed. It's in the manual." "What manual?" "The manual for emotional dads that no one gave me but clearly should exist." Clara laughed, squeezing his arm. "Thank you. For everything. You don't thank me for being your dad." He kissed her forehead. "It's the best job I've ever had." The music changed, and Clara started walking. Every step felt like slow motion in a movie, and then she saw Ethan, standing at the altar. Perfect gray suit, expression of a man seeing the most beautiful thing in the world. He was crying. Ethan Cole, CEO, head of an empire, a man who managed billions, crying for her. Clara felt her own tears start to fall. Great, there goes the makeup. When she reached the altar, Thomas placed her hand in Ethan's with touching solemnity. "Take care of her, with my life," Ethan promised. Thomas nodded and joined Margaret, who was sobbing loudly enough to wake the entire state of New York. The officiant began to speak, but Clara could hardly hear him. All she could see was Ethan, looking at her like she was a miracle. "Ethan, do you have something to say to Clara?" Ethan held both her hands. "Clara, 5 months ago, you came into my life like a storm. Literally and figuratively. You saved my mother from a puddle with a karate move I still don't fully understand. Soft laughter from the guests. You married me because of a contract, out of obligation, without knowing me. And even so, you changed everything. You made me laugh again, feel again, live again. His voice cracked. And now you're giving me a family, a baby, a future, things I thought I'd never have. He wiped his tears with the back of his hand. I love you, Clara, with every imperfect part of me, and I promise to spend the rest of my life deserving you. Clara was crying so much she could barely speak. Ethan, I'm the person who activates involuntary karate when nervous. I spill coffee on important people. I can't assemble a crib even with instructions, and I still Google what does a COO do at least 3 times a week. Now the laughter was genuine. But you love me despite all that, or maybe because of it. And she took a deep breath. That's everything I ever wanted. Someone who really sees me, with all my flaws, and stays anyway. She squeezed his hands. I love you. And I promise to spend the rest of my life trying not to activate a reflex at important moments. May I have the ring for the bride? Ethan picked up the ring. Not the contract one, but a new one, engraved inside with storm and peace. He slid it onto her finger. May I have the ring for the groom? Clara took his, same engraving. And that's when she noticed. Her hands were trembling. The tingling started rising. No, body, I'm begging you. Not now. Not at the altar, in front of everyone. Please. But the body didn't negotiate. The reflex almost triggered. Her leg twitched, her hand started to rise. And then Ethan did something unexpected. He laughed. He held her hands gently but firmly. Breathe. I'm here. Clara breathed. Once, twice, 3 times. The reflex faded, slowly, controlled. She slid the ring onto his finger, hands still shaking but steady enough. You did it, Ethan whispered, proud. I almost attacked you at our own wedding. I know, it was perfect. The officiant smiled. Then, by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Again, but this time, with real feeling. You may kiss the bride. Ethan pulled Clara close, and when their lips finally met, Clara felt her reflex give one last twitch, a tiny, almost invisible jump. They pulled apart, laughing. The crowd applauded. Margaret was sobbing loud enough to be heard in Connecticut. Amelia was standing, a rare and precious sight, clapping with tears in her eyes. Rachel shouted, Finally, it took you long enough to be adorable in public. And there in the garden, bathed in golden evening light, surrounded by a family that was messy, imperfect, but real, Clara realized something important. She didn't need a contract anymore. She didn't need a deadline. She only needed this. Him. Them. This life built on chaos, laughter, and completely unexpected love. Ethan held her face, smiling that devastating smile. Ready to start over? Clara looked at her husband, at their future, at the baby growing inside her. I was born ready. And for the first time in her life, she truly believed it. 6 months later, Clara was in her COO office, now with a photo of the baby on her desk. A little girl with her father's blue eyes and her mother's dark hair. Amelia came in, smiling with the pride only a grandmother could have. How's my granddaughter? Sleeping, finally, after 3 hours of teaching me that babies don't negotiate sleep. And the reflex? Clara smiled. Still active. Yesterday I almost attacked the pediatrician, but I'm getting better. Amelia laughed. You built an empire from nothing, Clara. Literally, from a muddy puddle to all this. Technically, I didn't build it. I kind of tripped into it. You chose it, Amelia corrected. Every step of the way, you chose courage, kindness, love, and involuntary karate, especially involuntary karate. They laughed together, looking out the window at Manhattan glowing on the horizon. And Clara realized that the city, the one that used to intimidate her, now felt like home. Because home was never about a place. It was always about people, and she had found hers. So what did you think of Clara's journey, from that muddy puddle all the way to the altar? Did you relate to her involuntary reflexes? Were you rooting for her romance with Ethan from the start? Or did you cheer when Amelia finally took charge? Share your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing what you think. Tell me, what was your favorite chapter? The funniest moment? The scene that moved you the most? And now, the big question. On a scale from 0 to 10, how would you rate this story? Was it a 10, perfect story, made you laugh and cry? Or a 7, good, but could use more development? Be honest. Your feedback helps me create even better stories. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to get more touching stories like this one. There's romance, comedy, corporate drama, twists, And always that kind of ending that warms the heart. See you in the next story. Goodbye for now.